Hey guys, I want to talk today about theme a little bit and yearbooks. It's not an area that we've addressed all that much over the course of the semester, so I did want to make sure that we got a little bit of an opportunity to actually talk about yearbook, in part because it's a key component of journalism and publication design. It also may serve as the catalyst for you getting a job. Oftentimes, yearbook is one of those areas that is understaffed in part because most non-insane teachers don't always necessarily want to take on the duties of a yearbook. When I started teaching 20 years ago, I essentially got my job because I said, yes, I would love to do yearbook, not entirely knowing what I was getting into, but also knowing that it seemed like it would be a great way to use the skills that I had built as a journalism major at Michigan State. And being able to combine the aspects of journalism that I really loved and the reporting and really cool sort of magazine style design, which is what we've done over the course of the semester. So part of your final project is either to create a magazine, an 8-page magazine, which I went over in the couple other slideshow presentations that you have hopefully already watched. Either the magazine, or if you wanted to create a yearbook theme package, you could choose to do that assignment as well. So this slideshow will walk you through how exactly to put together that theme package. Okay, so here we go. This will walk you through pages specifically from the yearbook that I advised last year at Palo Alto High School. So I'll talk about the different sections and kind of get at the theme in terms of thinking through how you might want to put this together. Job number one is to come up with a theme idea. There's tons of resources online to Google. A lot of times I'll tell my kids to take a look at some of the stuff online, but also be aware that if you're searching for yearbook themes, those are all yearbook themes that have been used before. So it's also not necessarily the best way to go about doing it because you're essentially kind of doing a theme that someone else has already done. There are very few completely original theme ideas. Our theme last year, That Feeling When, it has probably been done in places, I would imagine, before. So I don't know that we're the first. But our goal was to really try to connect it to our school as much as possible. And so I wanted my students to think through the process as far as like tying the theme into our particular school and making it one that really worked for us, more so than it might work in other places. Palo Alto is, of course, a sort of a tech hub, lots of different technology and computer, Silicon Valley things happening in our area. We have tons of tech companies. All of our students, their parents work for tech companies, all over the place here, Facebook or YouTube or Google or whatever else. And the students were really concerned with this idea of we're also going to a Chromebook system, a one-to-one Chromebook system, and the students were concerned with this idea of thinking through books sort of going away and the importance of being able to actually get your hands on a book instead of just some form of technology, actually holding the book in your hand. So they really like that idea of thinking about feelings. I don't know if you can hear in the background, I have someone leaf blowing or something outside the door, so hopefully that's not too distracting. So they created this theme, That Feeling When, which also goes with sort of a phrase that's, I think, relatively current right now, but hopefully won't feel too dated in the not too distant future. And they also created a package where the word feeling changed colors. It was this actually looks black when students got the book, and it was heat sensitive ink so that when it's in the sun or you rub your finger on it, you feel it, so to speak. It changes colors. So it turned into this. So that theme we thought really worked well for our school. It went over very well. The student body they thought the color changing ink was super cool. Obviously, things like that cost money, and so you need to take that into effect as well. This is what we did with our cover. So the first piece you're going to create is a cover. Notice that the front cover is on the right-hand side. So you're creating this on a double-page spread with the spine in the middle. and the front cover on the right and the back cover on the left. So it feels a little bit backwards in terms of creating that, but I do want you to create the whole thing instead of just the front cover. There's some information there, and this will also be shared in the assignment. You can take a look at that as well there. That the cover should include whatever your theme is, and then just the year and the name of your book. Ours is the Madrono is the name of the book. So we have 2017 Madrono on the front, and that's essentially the only information that's required. The spine of your book in the middle there requires more information. You should have the name of your school, the city and state, and the volume number, and then some sort of reference to your theme. And we had that little sort of splotchy pastel ink pattern that was created, so we included that with the volume number as well. So you're creating a cover, and then the inside of the front cover is known as the front end sheet. This is what actually binds the book, the front of the book, the cover of the book, to the guts of it, the middle. Is the front end sheet. You can print on the front end sheet, and most typically this is a place where you get a table of contents. So we did non-traditional coverage. We did chronological coverage, which is not a brand new thing. There are lots of schools going to chronological coverage now, but it's a different way to set up a book. So it's likely that when you were in high school, you had a book set up in traditional sections. There was a student life and a people section and a sports section and a club section. And that's kind of the organization pattern that was used for the book. That's still used and still a perfectly acceptable way to lay out a book. The other pretty popular method of putting together a book right now is in chronological order. So as opposed to having a separate sports section and a separate student life section, all of this stuff that happens over the course of the year is mixed in together and is organized according to the chronology in which it happened. So you can see here we have a section of spreads that pertain to what happened over the summer. And then we start in August, so we have an August and September spread, and then one for each month throughout the course of the year until we get to March. We're a spring delivery book, so March is the last one that we cover. We get a little bit of prom, which I think is towards the beginning of April, and then we're pretty much done. So, and you can see we do split out our people into a separate section. Our reference section at the end contains team pictures and club pictures and scoreboards of sports and that sort of thing. And then we have parent ads at the end. So your front end sheet continues the look of your theme. We've created a look with our font choices. That's Babus New is the font that we're primarily using. And that splotchy paint thing again that you saw on the front cover, you see again on the inside. So it doesn't look exactly the same, but certainly feels like it's from the same book. Apparently I got an email. Also, next we have the opening spread. This one I would have liked to have looked a little more consistent with our pattern, but at least we've got the fonts here. My students like to leave opening, my editors, until like the very end of the year, and I always prod them a little bit to spend more time throughout the course of the semester thinking about what they want to do with the opening, and it always ends up being one of the last spreads that we send. This is where you have some text that explains essentially to the reader why you chose the theme that you did. So this says, in a digital age, we often forget the tangible things in the world. Letters have become texting, record players have become Spotify, storage bins have become cloud storage. At the end of the day, there are always going to be more apps, more social media, more advanced technology. But to feel the worn pages of an old book, that's something that can never be replaced. Pretty powerful text. I think that they did a nice job with that. I love to have specifics. I almost would encourage your students to have more in the way of specifics, things that are really, really detailed and vivid and paint a picture of that particular year at your school. But I think they do a nice job of kind of setting the scene here. And all of the hands in the photo, again, they wanted that sort of like, thinking about feeling or touching things or things that are tangible, and those hands, I think, really play into that as well. So opening is typically pages 2 and 3, and sometimes 4 and 5 as well. Often you see a 4-page opening. You'd be required to have one spread of opening if you're choosing this project. Next, you're going to be doing a divider. Your dividers throughout the course of the book would have the same sort of look to them. So really, once you design one of them, you have probably a really good sense of what the others are going to look like. You're just changing the content a little bit. But you're only required for our project to do one of those. Our dividers, again, serve to obviously divide the section, but also give you kind of a more mini table of contents of the spreads that are within that particular section. So this was the first divider that was referenced on the end sheet. This is on pages 6 and 7, I believe, and splits into the summer spreads. And we have this really, really nice picture that one of our students had taken when they were on some sort of overseas trip that I think really kind of sets the scene pretty well. And again, the same fonts, same sort of look to the book. You can tell that you're in the same book. Okay, and then I have lots of examples of coverage pages, so I'll run through these pretty quickly. But again, we split our book chronologically, and so you've got multiple different things happening on each spread, right? This is not just the girls' basketball spread, and you only have pictures of girls' basketball. Okay? We had happens to be one of the summer ones. These will kind of go in chronological order throughout the course of the book. So this is one of those summer spreads. We had students who attended the Pride Parade. We had, apparently there was some sort of glow dance that took place that we got pictures of. And then there's a feature on the right-hand side about students who apparently like to jump in the fountains at Stanford in order to cool off. I'm not sure how legal that is, but they covered that fountain jumping thing as well. So coverage pages, again, they're split into mods, right? This one happens to have 3 mods. Okay, here's another summer spread. The main feature is about a girl who went on I think a National Geographic photography expedition to Brazil. And this is both photos of her and also some of the photos that she took on that trip. And another story about an overseas trip on the right-hand side. So this has, I believe, just 2 mods to it. Another summer spread focused more on seniors. We have a senior deck that got painted and actually was painted before the school year started, and then someone came in and graffiti defaced the deck with stuff about Harambe the gorilla, which apparently was a big deal with teenagers. I'm not entirely sure why still, but someone came in and defaced the artwork that had been done before the beginning of the year, and so they did this talk to the artist profile where they interviewed the student who did the original artwork and sort of how they felt about the artwork being defaced. We also had a feature on senior ID photos. Because the seniors don't actually use their ID photos for the yearbook, they tend to dress up in goofy ways and paint their faces up and make goofy faces. And so we covered that and kind of made that look like it was a part of the people section and also a memory section as well. Start to get some sports coverage. The tricky part with chronological coverage is making sure, I think, that you cover your sports as closely and as appropriately as possible. Because you're not necessarily going to do like a JV football spread. You need to make sure that your students are covering those spreads the right way and giving each individual sports team the attention that they deserve. So here's about learner permits, about different people who get around campus on wheels. This was the one in the upper right-hand corner was done by one of my special needs students who is really into vehicles and takes pictures of buses and golf carts and all kinds of wheeled vehicles all over campus, and he was pretty excited about doing that. But you can see how we've got 4 mods here, and the only thing that links them together is the fact that these all happened during the same week in September. Okay, just more examples of coverage pages, right? So the fall musical performance, some swimming and diving coverage, and some sort of a wiffle ball tournament that happened for charity. Homecoming and Spirit Week, of course, are major parts of this, so we split this one into 4 quadrants based on each of the 4 mods here is a different class, right? So we have the seniors, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen in 4 separate mods and coverage about what they were doing. And we do 1 Spirit Week day, each gets a spread in our book. So we do pretty extensive Spirit Week coverage. Here's another one of the days where the students all apparently dress up in togas. Another one with a lunch rally, and this was, I think, dressed like an old person day. Certainly fun. More Spirit Week coverage. You can see some of alternative story forms that are happening here. Getting further into the year, this was October, we've got more sports coverage, football, tennis, some student dance coverage, and a National Coming Out Day celebration spread as well. Here's an example of a profile page. I think some of these are good to do. We have a portrait studio at our school, and we're able to take some really cool portrait photography. This was a girl who's on our wrestling team and ended up doing really well in the state tournament, so our students thought they should devote a little more coverage to her. So we didn't do too many of these profile pages, but certainly it's a good way to break up your book, and there's stories that I think people are interested in reading about. Thanksgiving coverage and another musical performance. This is an example of a single subject on spread, so it's still split into mods, and in fact you have what's called a pop-out mod in the lower right-hand corner. Our students had a peace march. I think a lot of students in a lot of schools did peace marches in November, shortly after the election, and we did some really cool coverage of that peace march. Joan Baez is actually a graduate of Palo Alto High School, and was one of and volunteered to speak and also sing at our march. So we had a photo of her, and also I directed my students to one of the old yearbooks where her I can't remember if it's her senior picture or not, but her yearbook picture was actually in the book, so they had that sort of historical tie-in as well. I really liked what they did with this. Coverage of vacations that students took over the winter holiday break. Fun little mods. This was one on the boys on, I think, the soccer team who go through a ritual where they shave their heads in kind of weird ways as sort of a team bonding exercise, and we got a couple of the kids to show off their rather interesting hairdos. Just more random coverage on things that were happening in January, it looks like. Fun features on different socks, right? Kind of interactive, like guess which student has which socks. Rain is kind of a weird thing in Palo Alto because it's Northern California. It does not rain a ton, although in the winter we did get quite a bit of rain. So actually a story about different rain boots and things that students do when it's raining was appropriate. And then you're not required to do these. You should have two interior spreads, two coverage spreads through your theme packet. You are not required to do a people page, but just a couple of things that got included so that you see kind of the full picture. This was our underclassmen, sophomores section, and then some little features on where you eat lunch or what you like to do for lunch. Having a reference section is a valuable part of a book. So this is club pictures, and I encourage my students to do some coverage. I'd like to see a little more in terms of photos of the students in their particular doing activities in their particular clubs as this sidebar coverage. But it's good that we've got lots of quotes and different information about the clubs. And ideally, a lot of these are covered throughout the chronological section of the book. This is more just sort of, as it says, the reference section, so that you have a record of the students who were part of each of these clubs and what those clubs were. And then sports also should be a part of that, so we have all our sports team pictures. I like this as well, where we've got some additional sports candid shots, just in case. It's sort of a cover your butt kind of thing, where if we feel like we didn't quite cover a particular sport as well as we should have in the chronological section, we at least have more pictures here and more coverage of those teams here, so they feel like they're a part of the year as well. So hopefully that helps. Again, you're picking one of these or the other. So either the 8-page magazine that you're creating, or if you're interested, you can create the yearbook package, where you have a cover, a front end sheet, a title page, an opening spread, a divider spread, and two coverage and content spreads that would be in the middle of the book. So either one of those projects is certainly fine by me. Let me know what questions you have. Good luck with that. And this takes us basically to the end of the semester. So hopefully this information that you got over the course of the semester was really useful. If you ever have any questions about anything connected to design, or using in design, or teaching, advising publications, I am always happy to help out. And best of luck to you in either your current advising situations or in getting a publication advising job. Thanks so much. Take care.